Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Vector Automotive Challenge. The year is 1963. We've just produced our very first Vector Intrigues, and we are looking for a dealer network to sell them in. There was lots of good ideas out there, and we considered a lot of different options. The one that struck me the most, though, was the option to sell our cars at existing Studebaker dealers. The reason for this, as we've been watching Studebaker as we've developed the Vector and have noticed that they are struggling to produce vehicles that are relevant to the modern American car. They have a new car out, the Avanti, and it is a very stout competitor in the sports car market. We do like the car, but it's not something that the average American buyer is ready for. Our car is more similar to the Ford Falcon, the Chevy 2 or Nova, or the Plymouth Valiant. These cars are cars that are still fun to drive, but are ready for the average American consumer. The fact that our car is so similar to those kind of limits the amount of options we have as far as dealerships go. And we don't want to place our car directly across from them anyway, because as a buyer, you have to think that they're going to trust the long-standing manufacturers before they trust our startup manufacturer. So our hope was that the Vector Intrigue would help these struggling Studebaker dealers and the existing Studebaker reputation would help boost our company's image with the initial startup. Alright, well today we were going to take a look at some competitors for the Vector Intrigue, including the Ford Falcon and the Chevy Nova / Chevy 2. That's not going to happen anymore, as although I built them last night, they somehow got corrupt and are no longer even part of my game file. So they're out of here. Apparently, the big executives from Ford and Chevy got upset about us buying their cars to look at them, and they came and sabotaged our shop and stole them. That's the story I'm going with, and we're sticking with it. So for today, we will advance on through our timeline into 1964, where we need to produce a vehicle that will broaden our horizons a little bit. 63 was pretty good to us. Honestly, the biggest mistake we made in 1960 was choosing this body to start with. Not that it's not working out well for us as far as the Intrigue goes. The problem is this particular chassis design does not have the ability to be turned into a four-door vehicle. So that leaves us with just one option, and that is to develop a new body and chassis to better diversify our model lineup. And to that we say, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em. So we are going to develop a body that is pretty similar in size and shape to the existing Ford, Chevy, big three kind of entry-level sedan bodies. I would like to see what I can do, though, to make it, as we did with the Intrigue, make it a little bit more unique and global market friendly. It doesn't need to look good old boy Southern American looking. It doesn't need to look all high and tighty European looking, but somewhere in between that's going to make the car market in a different area than the Ford Falcon, than the Chevy Nova, than the Plymouth Valiant, and a plethora of other competitors in this market. here we go. Here is the body I have developed for what will be the Vector Cork, which will be our sedan concept for 1964. This car will hopefully better emphasize our company's ability to make practical everyday cars, but we can't completely disregard our spirit for sport. So as we trim this thing out for the concept floor, we need to keep that in mind. But we really also need to impress some automotive journalists out there to really let them believe that we can make affordable, practical, everyday drivable cars as well as some really cool sports cars. Since we really were not prepared to do another concept car this early on, we're not going to develop a new engine for this just yet, so we'll use our typical inline six. It's saying it's too big, but it doesn't look too big. I'll have to, well, let's see. Let's continue on. Let's just see. This is the I-Series. Yeah, let's do the I-Series. And let's see if we go to trim. Yeah, it does fit. So it lied. I hope so, because this is kind of what ruined the Falcon, was that engines said they didn't fit when they did. Actually, I feel like I should just save right now. Yeah, let's hope this works. Anyway, we are going to pack this car with creature comforts, including an automatic transmission, even though it's going to be limited to that 2-speed box with our inline 6. It's going to be not the fastest car in the world, but when we look at the Falcon, it too comes with a inline 6 and a 2-speed automatic transmission that is significantly underpowered compared to ours. The difference is the economy. Their car is claiming to put out, with the 144 cubic inch inline 6, somewhere in the range of 30 miles per gallon. So that's a tough thing to try and replicate with this car. We'll see what we can do. Oh, isn't this nice? I've accidentally borked up the fenders of this car, and in previous versions of Automation it would be like, oh, well, this car is ruined. But that is no more. We can go back to the model tab. And I'll just pull that fender out a little bit. And it's fixed. Ah, so nice. So nice. Actually, I can push this one in a bit too. And back to the trim we go. And what do you know? We get to put our 30 offset wheels on the back like I wanted. Everything's working out just fine. Initial build looks like we have some pretty low stats so far. Ooh, 18 miles per gallon. There's where we're struggling versus the Falcon. That may change our future engine lineup if I can't figure out how to improve this. Now, this is a concept car, and it will not be something that the journalists and whatnot will be driving. It is just going to be on the floor to gauge interest. So these values will be taken basically at face value. They have no real meaning just yet. But if we go through here, looks like we could probably squeak out a little bit more gearing from it. That wheel spin will carry on for quite some time, really. Oh, I had chosen the hard life instead of the medium compound. Hard life? Yes, it's a hard life to be this tire. No, hard long life tire. Medium compound, I think, is more reasonable. And yeah, we're down to 26%, 26%, and our drivability is coming up. That's the main thing that we're going to be worried about with this car is drivability and cost. So we want high drivability, high cost. No, high drivability, low cost. Yeah, that's what I meant. For the interior, I chose to go for a premium setup with 5 seats, a premium AM radio, power steering, and advanced safety. These are features that will kind of spark interest on the show floor. And then in the suspension, we went with progressive springs to give ourselves a nice bit of drivability and comfort, because that is a very nice statistic right there, 28.5 on comfort right now. And with the suspension, we went with comfort and just some gentle tweaking to even better smooth out the ride, including putting more aggressive dampers on the front since the front is heavier. You're welcome, Cooper. Sorry if you don't know what I'm talking about, but he will, and that makes me happy inside. Alright, so there we go. There's the Vector Cork concept car, the sedan version. This is really not as important as the car I'm about to build, though. Although we think it is important to have a sedan on the model lineup floor, and with hopefully in 1964 having our own Vector dealerships, or at least a larger presence on the dealership floor, it's important to have more cars there to choose from. However, we feel as though there's another market we could take this car to maybe help build some brand reputation and some brand recognition. Now, companies are starting to go to the wayside. They're starting to thin out. There's less competition as far as different manufacturers. But we've noticed that really some of the large manufacturers are starting to really take root and start to kind of take up all the soil, all the market. So there's nothing left for new car companies to try and grow in. And with brand recognition being so important, that's why we are going to build a different concept car, not for the showroom floor, but for a very specific market. Thanks to Intrepid Racer 13 for the suggestion, we are going to build the Interceptor model, a police special that's slimmed down, less gaudy, no chrome here, and just ready to catch some criminals. So under the hood, we will be putting our V-Series V8 Thunder V8. Wow, that was a lot of words. And it does indeed fit. It looks like it fits pretty nicely, actually. But what I want to do with this is absolutely max out its possible reliability. We need to gain the trust of the police force with this car. We need them to believe that this is the car they can believe in and rely on and stuff like that. So we're going to do everything we can to try and increase reliability on this engine. In its existing format, it looked like we were suffering from a bit of valve float, and we already did put some quality into the top end. We can get rid of a little bit with it, but let's actually reduce the rev limit. Yeah, down to 5,200, and that's helping already. We're already up to 41. Okay, we've done everything possible to increase the reliability of this engine. You can see there's 0 faults here. Everything is green. And our reliability is now 45.6, so that's better. Now, when it comes to a police vehicle, you're not going to be wanting to mess around with shifting gears, so the automatic is definitely the way to go. And you're going to need to be pretty much the fastest car on the road. So with a top speed of 151 miles an hour so far, that would be pretty darn close to it. Let's also keep in mind that this car needs to be extremely drivable, so let's see what we can do about the handling. We managed to make the fenders a little bit wider and get 14-inch wheels at 215 millimeters wide underneath of it, and that should really help with the drivability of the car, and it gives us the ability to put larger brakes on this version, which is extremely important. Alright, and here we have the Interceptor. It is a pretty pricey car to build, but we will be selling these at basically no profit to police stations and hopefully build a reputation as being a dependable manufacturer of vehicles. Alrighty, so now comes the viewer interaction part of the series here. Today, I have a request. I would like you guys to try and do your best 1960s magazine writer impression and send me an email of a, let's say, short blurb about what you would write about the Intrigue. I'm not going to make you do this blind. I'm going to host the files for this car up for download so you can test it out in the game yourself and draw your own impressions. And the most unique, creative, and era-correct entries I will read during the next episode. Feel free to draw comparisons to real-world cars. Feel free to say as much negative things as you want or positive things. It's completely up to you. Just try to be as much like a real magazine car reviewer as possible. Do, though, try to keep it short enough that I could reasonably, read it during an episode. Nothing too crazy. So send that over to conedodgeryt@gmail.com. Link probably appearing somewhere around here. Also, in the comments, feel free to comment about the... comments in the comments. Who would have thought? Feel free to comment about the Cork and the Interceptor concept and what you think of our plan for this car. If you think it's worth pursuing, or do we just hold off a few more years before we start to branch out into other kinds of cars? With the perceived general success of the Intrigue, things might start moving fast here around Vector. But if we make one big mistake, it could all still come crumbling down. Alright, so as mentioned, links for the download for the Intrigue in the description. And send your best magazine writer impression possible to my email inbox, and I will read them all and choose the best ones to read for next episode. Where next episode? What are we going to do next episode in 1965? Who knows? Time will tell. It all depends on the finding outs of what the community thinks about the Cork. And what do you think about that name? I'm on the fence with it. It's still a concept, so we can change it. If you got a good idea, let me know. I know some of you want to revive some of the old names from our future series, our future model lineups, and that could happen, but I think some of those that you guys are requesting are more appropriate for cars we're probably building in the future, if I could make that any more leading. So thank you, as always, for watching. The support for this series has been awesome, and I really appreciate it, and I will see you next time. And I decided to try using the flappy paddles without the spars. I'm using the Peugeot and discovered that it's significantly easier and less frustrating. Mostly because it doesn't do that weird hesitation between gears. It doesn't seem to let the revolves drop as far. So that's nice. And since you can't really